Now we've got to do a shawl collar, and of course we got our back piece, we got our two front pieces where we got the shawl and a right and a left one, and then we got our facing like this. Of course I put some interlining, ironed that upon the back of the facing. First of all, I'm going to sew these together 1 centimeter up here in the bag, that center bag. I'll put it aside and we'll come back to that one. Then we got here our back and our front. Sometimes you have heard me talking about a cross point, and to make sure you do things 100% correctly, it is nice to make these points to help you out. First of all, I measure, I got 1 centimeter of seam allowance. I measure here if we got down pattern here or a cutting here, our front piece, then we got here when I'm talking about cross points in this here, I'll make 2 cross points to assure that my corner around the neck and the shoulder is done perfectly. So first of all, I measure 1 centimeter down, and I can make a line. Of course these things are done at the back side because then it won't be seen, and you can do it with a chalk instead of what I'm doing with a pencil. Then I measure again here at this curved line, which is the neckline. I measured again and drew a line. Now I get a cross point here that I can use later, and the same on the other side. So as I said, first of all, measure 1 centimeter, draw a line, and 1 centimeter, and draw a line, and again you got your cross point. That's the front. I'll put it aside. Now I can do exactly the same here at the back. Again, this is just to help me out because things are getting easier. So I just again measure 1 centimeter from shoulder down, draw a line, and now I measure from the neckline 1 centimeter in, and I got a cross point here. I measure 1 centimeter from the shoulder down, draw a line, and measure 1 centimeter from my neckline in, and I got a cross point here. These cross points are necessary or useful when I'm supposed to do the assembling of the shoulders, because I'm sure then my neckline is fitted. Okay, let's get started. Put it aside and let's get started. First of all, I start by sewing the center bag of this facing together. There is 1 centimeter of seam allowance, so I need it to be sewn together first of all, so I got my facing all in one. So now I've got the facing like this, and the seam is my center bag. It need of course ironing. I'll do that in a second. Then I'm going to prepare my front and back. As you remember, we make these cross points to help us out, because when I fit my shoulder, of course I can just place it like this, but to check things I put a pin in the cross point, make sure that I catch the cross point on the other one as well, and then you can see now I can start and stop at the right point. So I'm just going to sew from that exact cross point to the armhole in this case, and just 1 centimeter of seam allowance. If you do it without the cross point, of course that's possible, but sometimes you have very difficult by making sure you got the right amount of seam in the back. Then I do exactly the same on the other one. Place my cross points upon each other, use the pin, find my cross point and assemble it, and check, is it okay? Just have to do a little bit. Yes, it is okay. And then I can sew that shoulder as well. Remember, you only sew to and from the exact cross point, not even 1 stitch longer, because that's going to give you a problem. It has to be quite accurate to assure that the look is right and the fitting for the neckline is perfect. Now you see, now we've sewn the shoulders together. Now we've got to assemble the center bag of the collar, and as before there is 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Now we just need to iron the center bag so that it's possible to sew the neckline at back. I'll just do that. So you see, now I have ironed the center back of the facing. I'll put it aside, we do not need it right away, and I ironed the center back of my collar. Now I'm going to sew this, but you'll see if I just do like this, it can't be a proper corner. So what I have to do is make a cut. So I cut only in the front piece. I cut down to that stitch, the last stitch I had at the cross point, cut it down here, and now it is possible to actually turn it to be sewn. So now you can place some pins center back and to the cross point, and the other one as well. And of course you've got to make sure you're not making any foldings, so you've got to make it as nice as possible. But when this is sewn, you see we've got a nice square here where the collar is, and the same in the other side, so we'll get a square. Now I'm sewing this from cross point to cross point, 1 centimeter of seam allowance, and you'll see now we got our collar attached, and if I turn it like this, you'll see we got our shawl collar. What I'm going to do now is iron this and split my seams so it's going to look like that. Now we got the possibility of folding our seam here up into the collar, and we'll look at that a little later when we're going to sample these with our facing. But first of all, ironing. So you see, I got here my nicely ironed collar with the beautiful corners and the neckline at centre back. I split in here, split my seams, and I put the seam allowance up into the collar. Now the next step is to assemble these, the facing and the collar, and doing that is in the front seam or the edge of this I place my pins, so you see it fits all the way. And of course you got to remember to have your, when you got the centre back seam, put it upon each other. Now I'm going to sew it 1 centimeter of seam allowance, make sure that your seams are still splitted if that's what you want, so it's not folding in the wrong direction. Now we're nearly there. Of course this is just a small sub-component, it's not all the way, but the system are the same if it's a long jacket or whatever. So now we made all of this, we put it all in one, and if I just show shortly, if I turn this to the back side, I suddenly got my nice collar. I'll just iron and then we'll finish this part as well afterwards, the inside, and iron it and then overlock the edge. So you see, now it's ironed in the edge and I overlocked the inside. There are different ways of doing this, but this is the easiest way. Now just hold it down in a way. Make sure that my seam is up. Keep it like this with a few pins just in the neckline back of the back in the bag. So you see, and make sure it's not too long or too short. It has to just fit. Now all I had to do to make sure it's not opening up is to sew it here, only in the neck at the back, and I do that by 2 millimeters from the seam because the seam is covered after sewing. If I wanted to not to be like that, I could as well sew it in the shadow of the seam, but again, this is all up to you, what you prefer. If you do it in the shadow, of course there won't be any visible seams, but this one is being covered afterward. So just sew it here 2 millimeters from the edge. And again, it's from that cross point to the cross point. Of course you can't see your cross points, but you know where they are. So now it's attached here at center bag, and you'll see there is a seam inside. Now my shawl collar is finished, and I've got here my shawl collar, and it's the next step could be so here it is, my shawl collar. It's folded, it looks nice. Of course, if you like to, you could make a top stitching, but that's again a part of the design, so it all depends. But if you do it nicely, it might not be necessary. Some people love to have stitches all around, some people don't. That's a matter of temperament. So you just decide what you want. I just make it like this, and inside, of course, you would normally make your overlock in the right color. This is just so that it's visible that it is actually overlocked, so you'll remember that part of it. And now it's just for button and buttonholes. Did you like what you just seen, and do you want to learn more? Then subscribe. I'll constantly develop and upload new things, all based upon the professional way of sewing. All the best from me, and good luck with your work.